All right, welcome back to the show, another episode. I got a question from a viewer today, Zan, who's picked up on something from your book that um,
Okay.
certainly raises some questions at first look. And the phrase that you've written, and I'll pick it out here so I can read it properly. You've written, "Love is symmetrical. The ones you love are the ones that love you."
Hmm.
So I think this is important to dive into because a lot of men's experience of love, and certainly mine for a lot of years, was that it was definitely not symmetrical. And any man who finds themselves in the friend zone right now is experiencing a very asymmetrical, one sided, I love the girl, but she doesn't feel the same way about me.
Right.
And then there's also the concept of, 100 million young guys around the world dreaming starry eyed at night about their favorite celebrity. But their favorite celebrity is probably not dreaming of the 100 million young guys around the world alone at night dreaming of them at the same time. So that certainly feels like a massive asymmetry when you think about, the who are the pinup models and the celebrities of our age and so on. So how do you begin to explain this, that love is that you believe love is symmetrical when many people's experience of it is not such?
Well, what I tried to describe there, that it occurred to me, just I may not be right ever, but I believe things I say. And so what occurs to me is that if we were to strip away all of the egoistic layers and which I suppose you can't, I think at the base, and we're equally attracted to what we're attracted to. And we're, the way I described in the book, we have this cloud of neediness and insecurity that wraps around us. And we see things through that foggy filter. So every girl that we see approximates our dream girl because we're
Hmm.
lonely, we're horny, whatever, right? Um, and so we cast upon all our hopes and dreams on her, which is not fair to her. Someone we start dating, for instance, and when she's less than interested, which is asymmetrical, we think, we feel that sense of loss, and I'm not going to get a girl like this again. We sink into that friend zone area sort of thing because we'd rather have some touch her skirt a little bit with her hand than lose her completely. And it's, which is very, very, very common. But if we were to strip that away, we would we would see that she's not the ideal girl for us. We would see that we would not be seeing her through this layer of rose-colored glasses. That's my assumption. There was times in my past. I remember I was dating this girl one time, and she was just magnificent to me. She was quote unquote out of my league. And I remember my brother and my family just didn't like her at all. They said they were telling me she's not a nice person. She's manipulating you. She's kind of judgmental of everybody else. And I just batted that all away because no way, man, this girl's perfect. And long story short, she broke up with me because of whatever, and I was heartbroken. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't whatever because I thought, man, that girl was finally,
Hmm.
the kind of girl of my dreams, and how can I lose that girl? Everybody identifies with this, and I was really, really heartsick for months. And
Hmm.
one day, I was about to go out and meet a friend of mine, a buddy of mine, and I had my shirt on, and there's a knock at my door. And I opened the door, and it was this girl. I hadn't talked to her, heard from her in 3 or 4 months. And she's smiling away like this with red lipstick on and says, I thought about it, and I want to start dating you again. So what are we going to do tonight? I'm like, in that moment, because I was sick about her that day, I remember thinking, writing poetry and missing this girl. And the moment I saw her and she said that, everything drained off of me. And I'm like, I lost all interest in her in that moment that she showed up at the door. It's the strangest thing. Her image was bigger than her in my mind, I guess.
Hmm.
And I just sent her on her way. And it, it was asymmetrical, but I was trying to get her to notice me and to attach to me as much as I was attached to her. So I think if we stripped all the way that neediness and that strong sense that we're going to lose, and I want to have a girl like this in my arms for pride, we stripped that all the way. We would for certain. I mean, there's guys that have, fancy cars and boats and a lot of money, and certain women are attracted to that, who don't really care about the guy on a personal level. Maybe they do a little bit. I shouldn't say that, but they're really attracted to the flashy things, and the guy's assuming, they're hoping that it's him. And so when if you strip that away, that hope and that assumption and that you would realize pretty quickly that she's not what you thought in your mind. So we have this, women and men have this blown up in their mind. And so what my idea was that if we stripped away all of this and we look clearly into the crowd, we would only be attracted to the ones who will magnify our presence, who will inspire us and be really, really aligned with our spirit. That's kind of my idea, which is maybe not possible.
Can you say a little bit more before we go into the layers and so on that needs to be stripped away? Can you say something more about that moment? Because it sounded almost like mythical, archetypal, cinematic, right? You open the door and she's there with a red lipstick on. And literally, you've been missing her the same morning, or you've been missing the mental image that you had of her that morning. And then in the afternoon, I guess, later that day, she comes to the door and it drains off. Like, I guess that moment took you by surprise, but can you say a little bit more? Because it sounds phenomenal, like an utter revelation.
It was strange. It's like I saw her I saw the real person and not this dreamy image I had. It was really strange. I remember it really surprised me, shocked me, because I would have done anything in the days before for her to knock on my door. I was just pining and missing her, right? Just like really thinking about her a lot, and I can't contact her. And when she showed up at the door, it's the strangest thing. I remember I was in a good mood. I'd been hanging around with my brother, I think, that day, and we'd been laughing so bad. And I was going to go out and meet a friend, and I was in a good mood. I was in a good spirit. And she came to the door and something hit me heavily. It was just it was a life lesson for me that we have these filters over our eyes. And certainly there's a ton of guys that can relate to this, and they might be in a situation right now where they just completely can't stop thinking about a certain girl. They're smitten. And the other thing that goes along with this is if you're in a relationship with somebody and it breaks up, say you've been with this woman for a year, it breaks up, and you're really, really missing her. It takes you months to get over this. And they say time heals, right? Time does heal. Months and months and months go by, and you just can't imagine a life without her still. At some point in the future, maybe a year, maybe 2 years, maybe I don't know. At some point in the future, my thesis from observation and experience is you're going to be glad that it ended. And you can't imagine that now. There's no way I'll ever be happy that this girl's no longer in my life. And there's some point in the future where you'll be in a different relationship, or you've moved to another country, or something's changed in your spirit and your heart, and you learn some things that you're going to be glad and look back and say, you know what? That was a good time in my life with her, but I'm glad that I'm not with her anymore. That's it. And it's almost an automatic thing after a certain period of time and changes in experience and stuff like that. It's kind of the same idea as this girl knocking on my door. It's like something I had built up in my mind, and then you see the real person, and it shouldn't discourage you. Think, well, then I don't have this great imagery to look up to or look forward to. It should calm your mind to know that she's just a girl and you're just a guy. You're nothing special. And the Bible says, love the one you're with. And maybe that makes us to renew our faith or commitment with our wife, for instance, because we think the grass is greener, and it isn't always necessarily greener. So I don't know. It's a strange phenomenon that hit me, and I've thought about this for a long time. So when guys call me for coaching and they're in this situation with a woman where they're desperate, I understand that. Let's do our best to magnify your possibilities of recovering into a better spirit with her. Like when she first met you, you were a certain way. You made her laugh, et cetera, et cetera. You were funny. She was charmed by you, and that went away because you got all serious or all angry or whatever. So let's return you to that state in her mind. There's ways to do that. So I can help a man recover to that degree, potentially. But at the same time, I'm thinking, and if it doesn't work, you're going to be okay. If you don't get it back, and you don't think that on the other side of this call, you think I'm going to die if I don't get this girl back. But you're going to be okay with time, with counsel, with reflection. You're going to be okay. You're going to come out and go, okay, I'm kind of glad that ended because now I have this.
So what happened with the girl at the door?
All I remember is just standing. I remember my face fell. I was kind of like in a happy mood sort of thing. And I remember she's smiling, and she just looks so, because she was not a nice person to me or to my family or my friends. She would make fun of them and roll her eyes type thing. And I just ignored that or didn't see it sort of thing. And when I saw her at the door there, I thought I saw someone who really just assumed that she could just waltz back in. So what are we doing tonight? Like, yeah. I had no autonomy. I had no choice. It was obvious, like, here I am again, And I saw her for that, and she just looked pathetic to me. And she was dressed all up, and she was a gorgeous girl. And I don't know. I remember something fell off me, and I thought it was really strange. Strange, man. But and I had no understanding.
I take it you said, no, I've got plans tonight, and then you didn't meet up the next day. I mean, did the whole thing just end? And you're thinking about her. Did that just end from that moment on?
It ended, and from that moment on. And I remember I didn't even invite her in. I was living in a house at the time that I was renting. So it wasn't an apartment. It was just, she drove up in a car and just knocked on the door. I'm like, and I don't remember how it went, but I remember just saying, I have plans or something. And I didn't invite her in. And she'd driven like from another, she'd driven like a good half hour to get there from where she lived. And I just didn't invite her in. And I don't remember how the evening progressed, but I remember just looking at her thinking, no, I'm done. I'm completely done with this woman.
Yeah.
Strange.
I think the crucial thing in all of this that I hear is you had an image of her, and I guess what you'd been pining for the previous 3 or 4 months was the image, and all this pining energy. I mean, I assume this because of the conversations I have with men and my own experience, but the pining energy that you've been going through for months and months and months is all directed into this image. And then you see the real person, and the real person is actually quite different from the image in a way that you are, in that moment, it sounds like you're able to separate the two of them, which is, wow, I actually see the real person for a moment. The image evaporates. I kind of imagine when you say like, oh, everything just fell from me, it's almost like there's this big release, as people talk about today, had a big release or a big shift in your energy when the image got pulled apart from the reality.
And a big part of it for me, for certain, and maybe some guys can relate to this, a big part of it for me was my low self-esteem and my low self-image of myself was bolstered because I had a woman look like that with me. So it was very it was a very public thing that I felt I was losing, that I was going to lose that validation. I was proud to have a girl that looked like that that would normally not be in my mind with me. And so a lot of it was the imagery of what she represented for me for validation, which is crazy, man. Which is crazy. But I
So it's
mean,
not
I
that
think guys,
you you didn't just lose the girl when she kind of left you 3 or 4 months prior, but you lost your source of your public validation or your public
correct.
front of
That's
self-esteem. And because people always ask, I'm in this relationship which is actually not good for me, and it's so unfair, it's not working out for me. And then the question to really explore is, well, if you're unhappy in a relationship that doesn't seem fair, what's the payoff that you are getting? Because if you think, God, she's manipulating me, she's controlling me, there's nothing good about this relationship, you have to scratch the surface deeper and say, well, what you're actually in a payoff. If you weren't getting any payoff at all, it'd be easy for you to leave. But then the payoff is, well, actually, every time I go out in public and I walk in the room with this girl on my arm or whatever it is, like, it feels good. To some part of
I
me,
think
it's
that's a
like
bigger thing than we think. I think that's bigger than we think, Jordan. Like, we'll have guys that feel like they're losing their woman, they're going to lose their companion, and but I think a lot of it is social, the way it looks socially. I think that's bigger than we think, and nobody really acknowledges that. I know guys that have married for 20 years with a beautiful woman, and they're cheating on her, for instance, but they don't want to lose her because she's up the social aspect of it. Yeah, I think it's bigger socially. We look good because we managed to land that, and that raises our social image in our own mind, and maybe nobody else cares, right? So for me, that
or
was a big thing
or
for sure.
takes away from a sense of loneliness, like there's an existential loneliness in my life, or if I lose her, I might not like the person that much. The loss of the woman might not actually be so much of a loss in the hearts of many men, but actually the comfort, the stability, the familiarity, the positive judgment of others around that you've got a stable relationship, etc. It's like many levels of you. When she walks out on you, many of your own layers of identity also leave with her.
Yeah,
So
that's
we
interesting, guy.
fear losing ourselves or our grip of ourselves.
And maybe it's just a natural thing, and maybe you can't surmount it because there's men that are in a relationship with a great woman that they really like, and she's takes care of the household and him, and has a cool career and this kind of stuff, and they like her and they're proud of her, but they feel like they haven't. She's not completely totally attractive to them. That happens.
Mm.
Yeah, she's not really. She's sweet and she's great, but I'm not lusting after her, for instance, right? And they feel like they haven't explored that part of their psyche to the maximum. And then, so what? So, but maybe that's the natural course of life. It's like maybe that's the way it is. Um, and it's always kind of asymmetrical. Oh, hang on, got a weather alert.
Emergency in Bucharest. Yeah.
Yeah. So so I don't know. Maybe that all of our lives are this dance between feeling of self assurance and having validation, and it being stripped away from us, and we have to find that source again. And maybe that's what it is, because you think of anybody famous in their career, they always felt like they had this battle with their career, and we look at it and think they were magnificent, like an artist, for instance, and they think my art wasn't that great, and everybody else praises it, you know, or women that are praised for their looks and they don't feel pretty at all.
Mm.
They think, man, if only they knew how I really feel and the way I woke up this morning, I covered it with makeup, and everybody's like thinks she's the beautiful girl in the world, Instagram cover of Vogue or whatever, and she doesn't feel it at all. So maybe that's the whole nature of life is the the dance between feeling those moments of acceptance in ourselves, validation, and it getting stripped away, and we seek it again.
So can you say a little more to make it really practical for listeners who are in a bit of a maybe an idealization or a limerent loop? I mean, limerence is a good word that I've used a lot, which is this sense of I'm in love, this real kind of yearning sense of being in love with someone who's unavailable or is not there. But then you can spend a long time trapped, actually kind of fawning after some woman or fawning after some inner image of a woman. And then you're really stuck in a situation that feels like love, and it's absolutely asymmetrical.
Sorry.
What do you, and I know you've touched on a few of these, but what do you sense are some of the clouds or the mist or some of the layers of ego that you've said that men have that keep them in this fixed sense that their love is asymmetrical, and they don't feel they don't find the corresponding love? What
Well,
are those layers? How do we work through them?
the layers of being intimately unsatisfied, let's say that, of being socially unsatisfied, of being lonely, of being, that's a strong layer, right? Of being, feeling like unlovable and unworthy, insecurity, in other words. I mean, the Greeks had the idea of the two halves coming together to make a whole, and your whole life is your psyche trying to find that other half to complete you. So, I mean, it's not a new idea. And maybe that's what it is. Maybe we don't feel complete. We don't feel, we don't feel manifest or realized as a being, as a human being, until we find that other complementary soul. So I mean, maybe it's a completely natural thing is what I'm trying to say. Maybe that the loneliness and the ego and the social acceptance and all the things that these layers that men have are just a natural thing that you have since you're born till the time you're old, and nothing to solve or to self-help out of you. Maybe it's just an awareness we need, like the awareness of that one of these days we're going to die. It's just an awareness we need. We can't solve it, but we can be aware of it. So I don't know. I'm just thinking these things out loud, and I don't have a solution or answers, but we do have this cloud over our eyes that makes it so certain women are elevated in our minds, and everybody else can say, she's not that great. What are you talking about? And vice versa, women to men. And
So your more philosophical view would be actually we all naturally kind of grow with our layers of ego, whatever they are, and we have to just kind of see them and ideally be graceful about them, or not get hemmed in by the patterns that they choose.
How much self-help and self-development and meditation and mindful practices are to try and outstrip your ego, to try and move away from your ego-driven mind, so that's the self-helpy goal, I think, to put ego aside and maybe, is it possible? Maybe it's not possible. I don't know. I don't know these answers to this.
My general view on this, just to kind of speak it into what you've been sharing so far, is as we grow up, I think we all naturally feel like there are some holes within us that we need to fulfill. Yes. And whatever hole I have within me, let's say I have a hole of self-love. There's no self-love. There's no feeling in my heart that I love myself. And if things go wrong, there's no sense of I can actually be with the pain and just like give my own self, some words of calming or some palliation against the distress that I feel. And therefore, in those
Yeah.
moments, I might yearn for a woman to come in and plug that hole. Because I don't plug it myself, then there's got to be some loving woman out there who's going to come and speak the words to me and give me the feeling of love that ideally I will have. So I've, one of, one of the terrible things I used to do at school is like, I would try and get together with a girl who was quote unquote out of my league, and she would flirt with me and then end up saying no. And then in the distress of rejection, I would turn around and then find another woman who was ready to give me love and pat me on the shoulder and just say, "Oh, Jordan, you were so close and it's so unfair and you'll find the right." So I'd run to another woman who would give me the love that the first one didn't give me. Right. So I was very much looking around, seeing who could fill that. And it seems to me, you mentioned loneliness, neediness, self-esteem, self-value, feeling alive is another one for men. They feel that they're not alive in themselves, or they're so stretched and so busy they don't feel aliveness. Their wife at home is also so stretched and busy, she doesn't give them the sense of passion or allure anymore. They start feeling a hole of aliveness, and then they turn towards some kind of siren figure, the younger girl, the archetypal sports car, right? Like, I need to go and find someone passionate because I'm not feeling passionate about my life anymore.
Right.
So
Yeah.
so
Go ahead.
I guess one of the things that I'm finding the older I get is, as I plug the holes a little bit more, as my kind of self-worth is not so much a hole, but I'd start to realize my self-worth, etc. I need less and less validation from the outside. And I start to have a cleaner view of who other people are, because you're not a supply to fill that gap.
Yeah.
This girl is not a supply to fill the gap of my loneliness. And then I have a mental relationship with an image of her.
But I mean, there's an analog with the way we're trying to relate to the other, that we have a need or a desire or a hole, as you express it, right? That we want to fill, and but it's no different than you having this hole in fulfillment of your career path, for instance. You're trying to find equilibrium in what you're doing on your daily basis, and we have that. We also have that sense of not being fulfilled or aligned or at peace in our heart because we're not doing what we want to be doing, or it's not what we thought it was going to be. So, and it's not a new phenomenon. So I just think that maybe all of life is just trying to find that balance and find that fulfillment and that abundance and that something that fills the holes we have in our heart. And does anybody ever arrive to that? I don't know. Maybe they do. Sure, maybe they do.
Can you share a little bit about when you first had experiences that hinted to you that love actually was symmetrical, and that it wasn't this kind of game of internal hole plugging?
Yeah, for certain. Well, but it is that internal hole plugging. And like I said, maybe we can't strip it away. I'm talking on a very philosophical level. If we could strip away all of that burden on our hearts, which we're human, so we have it naturally. It's like we get it from our childhood. Maybe some psychologists could say, well, because we miss our mom or our father wasn't there, and we're longing for that, to try and recover that loss. He was there and then he wasn't there, for instance, something in the psyche. So my phrasing is a very philosophical, idealistic way of looking at it. If that love is symmetrical, if we could strip that all away, if we could go down to the bare bones, my thesis is that we would only be attracted to the women that will maximize our experience. And if we had it stripped away, we would only be attracted to women that really are attracted to us as well. That's the idea. So we're attracted to women because of our layers. We're super attracted, and they may not. It's asymmetrical because they may not be. They might start to date you, and they might like you, but they're not completely in love with you in the same way that you're in love with them. You know, the old French saying, in every relationship, there's the one who kisses and the one who offers the cheek.
Hmm.
You know, which is asymmetrical, and um, so I'm not sure. I guess my phrasing and my ideology is that if we could strip away all this, we were at a music festival, for instance, we looked at the crowd, we would only be attracted to the ones that will be attracted to us on equal plane. If we could strip it away, we'd only be attracted to the ones that are attracted to us, and we wouldn't chase down all the other women um, that are not going to give us the same reciprocity back. We might have a relationship with them for 2-3 years, but their mind's elsewhere, for instance, and vice versa. This works for the women. If they could strip away all that too, they don't be attracted to the ones that really be life-giving energy for them, I think. And I can't scientifically prove it.
Did you just say you're walking through a music festival and meeting women, or was that my own imagination? You're walking
No, I
through a
said, yeah,
music festival.
yeah. If you were stripped away from all of these layers and you're at a music,
Yeah,
I'm just saying music festivals, there's a lot of women
yeah, yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, you did say it.
You would look across the crowd. Now you look across the crowd, and that girl's got a nice heart-shaped ass, and this girl looks
Yeah.
pretty, and they're smiling, and all the guys are looking at her. I wish I had a girl like that. If you could strip all that away and really see the reality of the essence of the beauty that there is, you'd be only
Mm-hmm.
drawn to certain women in that crowd that
Yeah.
will be life-giving to you
So
and
is
inspire.
this another way of saying two souls move through the crowd in the dance music festival and they recognize each other, and it's like, wow, out of the 1,000 other options here, you're the one who most maximizes my experience of being alive, or two spirits or two fragments of the spirit recognize in each other a particular beauty
Yep.
that's the deep layer of it. But we're bamboozled by body parts or signals of status or made up meaning of what it would mean if I had a woman, the one who's dancing on the podium, etc., so that I'm bamboozled actually now by the physical form, and I don't actually recognize the beauty of the soul who's walking through.
Yeah.
It's kind of
My thought, I mean, Plato's Symposium, he talked about these two halves that are that are rolling through the world, and until they find each other, there's no completion. There's no, so it's not a new concept.
mm.
Not like we invented something.
I mean,
It's
I'm a real big believer in the sense that love is symmetrical, as you say, but it's life experience that's tipped me off in this direction. There was a really good phrase actually. You were here. We met a group that were much more into the energy, the energy of attraction and what you feel energetically in the body beyond what the eyes can see or what the mind might make judgments or stories about. What do you feel? And their saying on this topic was that desire is co-arising. That
co co
co-arising, so that you have two people, let's say that eye each other up in the center of the music festival. If there is real desire in these people, it will arise in both of them together,
Yes,
or
that makes
it will not. Or if there is like a semi desire, halfway desire, it will arise a little bit in them, and it will leave them in a bit of ambiguity, and then it will fade. So two beings will desire each other as an exact mirror image, because the kind of relationship is always there. The energy moves through both people at the same time. And what I discovered was, to experience that, I have to be able to trust what I feel in my energy or my
yeah,
arousal or my turn on or my body, and really stop believing in this. So a lot of men have the thing of, oh, every woman I run into, I'm going to naturally judge her on a scale of 0 to 10, right? It's typical kind of the objectifying mind that a lot of men we just grow up and have. So I'm just going to look out for all the 9s and 10s, and then I'm going to ignore anyone else who might actually provoke energy in the body. But I would say the real 10 is the woman I look at and with whom I feel a mutual sense of desire arising. You might think, wow, she's not a 10 in my world. Some other guys might think that, but I would be like, well, in my world, the feeling here is maximum. The sensation is huge. The inspiration or the draw or the excitement that I feel in my heart is extremely acute. And all of a sudden, she's the only person I want to pay attention to in the universe. Everyone else fades away, no matter what the status. So I started to develop a real trust in that. And I think it's a GPS. It's the ultimate GPS for thinking, how do I choose who to speak to? Where does my curiosity naturally fall? And for me, it's not like my my clouds or my ego patterns or whatever are completely solved, but it's almost like the center of gravity, let's say, or the ultimate decision making realm within my own self is chosen by something else that's not the ego, quite not nearly as much as it used to be when I was very asymmetrically in love with women that wouldn't respond.
Yeah, it's the idea of soulmates, and I think it's a myth, because if you believe in soulmates, for instance, you have to believe in something otherworldly, like divine plan, or alien spirits coming together or something. You got to think of something otherworldly. If you think of soulmates, in other words, just one that's meant just for you. It's got to come from somewhere. Somebody's got to mean that for you, right? Or some entity's got to mean that. But I can think of lots of examples of someone who is completely in love with their soulmate. That person dies and they're heartbroken. And later in life, they spend the next 25 years with their soulmate, someone else that they've met that they just have absolutely adore. So, like I said, that idea of soulmate comes from Plato, I think.
What's your final word on the concept of the soulmate or the twin flame? That's another one. I think this is a really important question, because a lot of us who are asymmetrically in love might start to really think she's my soulmate or she's my twin flame. It's meant to be. Almost like twin flame, I think, is the ultimate destination the mind goes into when it's suffering the most in an asymmetrical world. She's my twin flame, and it has to be. And she's given no indication actually that that her desire for you is twinned with the amount of desire you have for her.
It's like the concept, the biblical concept, love the one you're with. There's a reason that arranged marriages are more successful, longevity and peace in the home, compared to these romantic based relationships, because you can be confined with somebody and put in space with somebody, and you can grow to really admire and be attracted to that person. Was that your soulmate, or was that just circumstance and happenstance? I mean, the prevalence of arranged marriages and the success of those arranged marriages, and they have a happy home and they have a happy life, and they care about each other and they grow to care about each other, puts the lie to the idea that you only have a soulmate that's you have to find someday in your life. And you serial monogamy or whatever, trying to find that soulmate. And you think it is this next one. I mean, how many people go into a relationship with just pure joy of, wow, I met this guy. And I'm so thrilled because he's different than all the rest. And we have this idea that, we imagine any business enterprise that has the failure rate of relationships. You would never invest and never go into that business. The failure rate is astronomical. And yet we don't see that failure rate when we start a new relationship. We think this is the one. I can feel it, man, Jordan. I've met this woman. I've been with her for a month now and 6 weeks. And she's everything that my ex wasn't. And she's everything I ever wanted. And we have this whole hope. We have this hopeful spirit. And everybody who embark in a new relationship has this pure, unadulterated hope and excitement that this is finally, I learned my lessons, put away all that, I was attracted to the toxic people before, but not anymore. And then it just ends up being another one in the cycle. Crazy, man.
The poet I admire said that the soul is the faculty of belonging. And I think, as you're saying, love the one you're with. I tend to think a soulmate is something that you wear into, like the groove in the sofa, or an old item of clothing that you just want to wear over and over again. I sense that soulmates grow together, and when you see an older couple that are genuinely happy and they've been together for 25 years, 30 years, and they say we're soulmates, they're very believable because they've grown into each other, rather than it perhaps being a preordained cosmic thing that the two spirits, from the first off.
Right. Maybe it is preordained. Maybe there is some kind of demiurge or something, or prime mover that's saying this is, you're going to be angst filled and not aligned with the universe until you find that better half, or that other half, maybe, who knows? Who's we to say? And if you're pure humanist, it's all evolution, and it's all just procreation, and we're biologically programmed and chemically arranged so to maximize our procreation, and so that these ego-driven things are biological and evolutionary expanded into, so that we do feel lost, we do feel need, we do walk around the music festival and are horny for every girl that we see in a little, bikini, and we're going to jump on her. Maybe it's the humanist would say that that's all there is. It's just prime desire, and soulmates be damned. Like, there's no such thing. It's just get your seat out there as far as you can, and it could be right. That could be right too. Who knows? I mean, I have my own beliefs, but I might say what it is.
Let's wrap up with a final word of help or advice for just thinking into the question. Zan, can you say more about this concept of love is symmetrical? Typically, someone is grappling with that being a possibility and has had the experience of love being asymmetrical. What would you say to someone who finds themselves again and again in an experience of asymmetric love, who's like, I'm tired of this one-way street. I want to find something that goes both ways?
I mean, life experience and age, if you're trying to maximize your journey through life and not just existing and going through the treadmill of a year going by, and you're learning and you're taking your lessons and you're contemplating your experiences and contemplating the relationships that failed and the relationship you're in now that is successful in your mind, and you're just thinking these things through, you become more calm in your spirit and more aware. And you can start to put a recognition, just like you put a recognition on the idea that one day you're going to be dead, and you can have that recognition, and it's not a bad thing. It's just something that adds to the fabric of you being a full spectrum person. The same thing with relationships, and like you said, this person goes through serial repetitions of the same type of energy. We're always drawn to the same type of, unless we're growing, we're drawn to the same representation of the fulfillment the hole we're trying to fill. We're drawn to that same person. We just cycle through it. Unless you're learning and growing and saying, I want to understand myself, you're reaching into philosophy and literature. You're looking at art as something to increase your experience and your knowledge of the world. And then as you do that, your attraction to women will change to more aligned with a more wisdom-based perspective. And there's no shortcut except to be aware that it's possible. So aware that it's there. So someone who's stuck in that cycle of repetitively, falling for someone completely toxic and think that's the next best thing since sliced bread. Just be aware. Start having life experiences. Start looking at your life as a cool story, and reread the chapters that you went through, that you just wrote. Reread that chapter, and that's cool. That's a cool chapter. And don't beat yourself up, and and learn and become more maximally a citizen of the world and a citizen of the realm of humans and a good person, etc. You'll be attracted to a higher, dare I say, quality of woman or man. So.
All right. Thank you, Zan. Thanks everyone for watching.
Thanks.
Link to our newsletter underneath if you've not signed up. Fresh writing, and I think we have a 4-part mini course also on the newsletter for those signing up, and links to our membership below as well. Make sure you're enrolled.
Okay, perfect.